Hey, before we get into the episode, I just want to tell you about my free astrology newsletter called the Starzologer. It comes out every Sunday. It's a lot of interest for astrologers. I explore cosmic currents moving through the ever-changing skies. Most weeks I explore what's coming up in the week and also share some astrology sticky bits and throw in some ideas about buzzing around. You also get stretched with my Extend Yourself sections. So this newsletter is for aspiring astrologers or anyone who's trying to up their astrological knowledge. It's totally free and you can sign up at starzology.com/newsletter. Now let's get into the show. Welcome to the Starzology Astrology Podcast. I am your host, Alison Price, and I'm very excited to share with you an interview I recently did with Amsterdam-based professional astrologer FAYE Blake. FAYE is a highly respected astrologer in the astrological community, and she has written a book about vocational astrology, which we're going to have a look into as well. So, enjoy. So, FAYE Blake, welcome to the Starzology Astrology Podcast.
Thank you, Alison. It's lovely to be here again.
Yes, thank you so much for coming today and sharing your time and energy with us. I know sometimes it's tricky doing these recordings, but here we are.
Here we are, yes.
So I'd like to introduce you to our listeners and the type of, and explain a little bit more perhaps about the type of astrology you do and how you got into it in the first place.
Oh, okay. How I got into it in the first place? Well, about what seems like about 100 years ago, I had my chart done when I come from New Zealand, and I went to somebody when I was quite young who was doing charts in Auckland, and I thought that would be interesting to know because I was just thinking of starting to learn astrology. And looking back now, he was only just beginning, and it was all handwritten. And when I read it back, I've still got it. When I read it now, I think, God, he didn't know anything really. So it was quite fun, but it got me interested because I was kind of noticing when I was younger that what was called star signs then seemed to fit people. So that's how I got started with that. And then I started doing in the 70s, I think I started doing a correspondence course because that's all there was in New Zealand at the time, and he wasn't even in the same city. So you had to sort of write it all out and I had to learn all the zodiac signs in French and in German and something else. I thought that's been really useful, I must say. But anyway, that's how I started. And then when I moved to London in 1984, and then that's when I really got hooked on it. So I had Sue Tompkins, who some of you will probably know from her Aspects book and her Contemporary Astrology book. She was actually teaching for the London Educational Authority, which was a kind of night schooly thing that you could do. And so I went to her and I got totally hooked. So that's where I started in London. And that was great because in London in the 80s, there was just astrology all over the place. So it was fantastic. It was all the Liz Greens and everybody coming from, it was the Gokalans and it was the, you name it, they were there in London. So, and there was the lodge and there was, it was everything.
It was like the golden age, wasn't it, then?
It was really, and it was just so good because there was about 3 things every week, with the lodge and the Theosophical Society, and then you had all the other societies going on. So it was just brilliant. Yeah,
that's great. And then over time, you've actually kind of narrowed your focus into vocational astrology.
Yeah, because I did basic astrology and I did a few courses there, and then I moved to the Netherlands in '86. So I carried on with my own study and research and everything else. And I met somebody that was working with an actual vocational coach. And she had this idea for doing this course she'd only just started astrology, so she didn't want to teach it. So she said, "Would you like to teach it with this coach?" And I thought, well, that sounds really interesting. And they'd kind of stolen a model from a coach, from a normal career coach, which is what's my book's based on now. So that's how that started, and that was great because I thought we can do this with astrology. The way the book's set up, we can really do it. So in Dutch, it sounds really good. It's called Wat wil ik, wat kan ik, and what wil ik, what kan ik, what, or who am I? Wie ben ik, wat wil ik, and what kan ik. So that's who am I, what can I do, and what do I want? And so that's the basic structure of my book. So my vocational astrology book is different because it starts not with a chart, but with what you're trying to get to, which is a vocational profile. Which is
yes. So
which you can then use for life. So yeah, it starts at a different viewpoint. It starts with trying to achieve something that's useful for, going for interviews and writing a CV and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. So that's how it starts.
Yeah. So are you saying then that vocational profiles are unique to each individual's birth chart?
Absolutely, and they have to write them. So I think I'm always saying that as astrologers, we do way too much work and we work too hard. So their approach was that the vocational profile is something that everybody does through questions. And so they have to write up each piece of it. And the vocational profile includes my style, my talents, my drive, what sort of environment do I want to be in, those kinds of things. So I added a couple that I thought we could do from astrology as well, but I used the basic principle of that. So of course my clients have to write it up as well. It's a discussion that I record, and then they have to make the vocational profile in their own words. But if they do that properly and really well, then it's for life. So, because you can check.
Okay, so you're offering to do vocational profiles for your clients using astrology. That's what most people come to you for, would you say, at this stage?
No, not really. I mean, I think I don't always do the whole profile. I mean, sometimes companies pay me, if the people have been made redundant, they pay me to do like the 10 sessions or whatever it takes to do the whole thing. But most people just come for part of it. So most people would come for, say, just a vocation. What's my vocation? I'm in a crossroads and I don't know where to go next, that kind of stuff. Or they'd come for, I want to know what my talents are, or they might come for branding, or they might come for, for what sort of environment, what sort of country might I want to work in, so astrocartography can play a role as well. But each person's different, and, it depends on their wallet, how many times they can come usually. Yes. But yeah.
Yeah, I know. I had a question a couple of weeks ago from some woman who was a mother of 2 children who were trying to choose their courses for college and university, and she wanted to have some kind of a reading about what her daughters ought to be doing. So you would work with people like that as well, yes?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, the youngest person I've had was about 13, but she was really special, yeah. But, the sort of 18, 19-year-olds who have to pick a course of study or not sure what they're doing, or they've just finished, like here, they go to university for quite a while sometimes. So they're a little bit later than just finishing school. But I always like to get the parents out of the way first because often parents have a good idea of which way they want to lean their children, And a lot of the work, I'm a therapist as well, so a lot of the work I do can come off the vocational stuff, looking at blocks. And a lot of that stuff is, when I was 18, my mother said, don't be an artist because that never pays, go and be an accountant, so that kind of stuff you have. So I'm trying to get that out of the way when I'm really looking at younger people. And younger people know what they want. They're just not quite sure how to put it into words. But what a lot of vocational astrology does is it tries to say, okay, you could be a good engineer or you could be this or that. I don't do that because there's so many jobs now that I've never heard of. So, and the kids know.
Interesting, yeah, they're popping up all the time, right?
Yeah, I mean, one of the ones I had a while back was he ended up going to China because he was very Sun Jupiter, and I thought he should travel, and he really had a thing with China, and he ended up going to China and becoming really wealthy because he was developing computer games, and so I would never have thought of that as a job then. It was quite a while back. Now you might a bit more, but. I mean, it was, kids have an idea, and I think sometimes, you think, yeah, that's a really good idea, I see myself as a sort of encourager of people who come up with an idea, because quite often people come up with an idea and they think, oh, everybody said that's a terrible job, you don't want to do that. And I'm going, yes, it's absolutely perfect. I had it once, a woman who she said she was an administrator for a long time. And she said, and her sister was an astrologer, and her sister sent it to me, and she said, I told my family I really wanted to be a funeral director, doing funeral services. Wow. And her whole family said, oh my God, that's so depressing. You can't do that. Don't do that job. And I looked at a chart and I thought, it's absolutely perfect. She was really plutonic and really good with people and good communicator. And I thought it's perfect. And she did it. And she wrote about a year later and she'd done all the training. She said, it's the best thing I've ever done, So I thought, great, if you can do that, my work is done.
Yes, because, let's face it, working in a funeral parlour is not the first thing you think of, is it?
No, and most people try and talk you out of it, because they think, oh, God, it's so sad. How can you do that? She loves it.
When I was younger, people were saying, oh, you've got to be a doctor. That's a good job. But these days, you've got to be a tech person. That's kind of a good job, But there are so so many different ways that it can be done as well. And
yeah, like the woman in my book, I give her an example all the way through the book, but her mother had 3 children. She was a sole parent. And she said to her children, you're going to be the engineer, you're going to be the lawyer, and you're going to be the whatever. And that's what they did. And I think I told you before, some time ago, I put it in the book now, that she was my guinea pig client. And she loved writing, so she was good at writing up her case study. But she ended up being a stand-up comedian. After working at a computer help desk for a long time, which she hated. So I thought, oh, great,
Yeah. And so I suppose it can also help people who come to that kind of, dare I say, where they're thinking that I hate my job, but what should I be doing? And you would be able to assist them with things like that, which is great.
I get a lot of those.
Yeah. Well, it comes to us all, right? That kind of question. Or there's people in your family where and they're thinking, I got to do something else before it's too late, or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, you get the midlife crisis people when you get the Huber age point, which I also use, has some critical points, which is really interesting because 39 is a job crisis. It's the critical point of the 6th house, so it's a job crisis often. And quite often I get people around, 33 is the job crisis. And quite often I get people around 33 who just think, oh, God, I can't stand it anymore. And then 45 is the other one where they think, I can't do this anymore. I have to do a real job now that I really want to do. So, yeah.
So you're combining the Huber...
yeah.
Huber time, what's it called?
Yeah, the age point, yeah. The clock.
The Huber age point.
Life clock.
Yeah, could you talk a little bit about that and just tell us what that is?
Yeah, I mean, I studied it with the Hubers when they were still alive. I've used it for about 20 years, and it's Bruno Huber thought there should be a clock in the horoscope because, let's face it, round and 12 things. He always said, so there must be a timing mechanism in this as a clock. And he tried lots of house systems, lots of different, how many years it took to go round and all that sort of thing. And he ended up with 72-year cycle. And he's got all sorts of reasons for why that might work, but 72 being a magical number and stuff. And then there's 6 years in each house. So the clock ticks around from the ascendant, which is birth, and then goes tick, tick, tick round to the second house cusp is 6, third house cusp is age 12. So it's like a one-handed clock that travels around and then starts again at 72. So, and there's critical, and so the first phase, the first house is Aries, obviously. The second phase is Taurus, third house. So third house is from 12 to 18 is Gemini. That's sort of puberty, and 15 is the critical point, etc. So 45 is in the 8th house, so it's a Scorpio midlife crisis, Scorpio crisis, and so that's when you have a sort of Huber calls that the low point of life. He calls it the low point, but it's really a crisis point where you think I have to get out of here. But 33 is the 6th house Virgo crisis point. So I've noticed that 33 people come for a job where they really they don't like the daily grind, the Virgo thing. But yeah.
Yes.
So it's really interesting.
It's actually interesting how what you're saying there is that everyone's life at certain points reaches the same position, regardless of what your chart is.
That's right. So it's a biological clock, he calls it, that everybody goes through the same phases. It's like I always say, you get advice for when you're 1 and 2, when you're supposed to be teething and when you're supposed to be walking and that, and then you get puberty, so you get the books about how to deal with teenagers that are going through puberty, and then the next the next advice you get is like midlife crisis. There's kind of nothing. So what are you supposed to be doing when you're 27 or 57 or 60? Whereas just looking at the chart, you can when you're 60, you're going into the Aquarius phase. So if you know the astrology and which houses you're in, you know quite a bit already. It's great at parties because you can say how old are you? You're at that point. Oh, you're 45. Wow, that's real midlife crisis. We're 33. How's your job going? But people go, what? Yeah, absolutely. It's really advisable. Yeah, so that's one way. That's one way of looking at the houses, and the other one is of course everybody does the same biological clock. So you go through puberty at the same kind of ages, but you do it in your own way depending on your chart. So you might have Gemini starting the second house cusp. So you're doing 6 to 12 in a Gemini way. right? So that's your kind of background music, if you like. And then, of course, everybody's planets fall in a different place. So when you hit a planet, that's a major thing you can look at for psychological development. So, yeah, and for medical or whatever, and for when a pattern started, the first time you get the age point on a planet, that's when you reach a kind of conclusion about life and who you think you are, and what you can do. So if you've had a Pluto at aged I don't know, let's say 12, and it was, you've been, something really terrible happened to you, like sexual abuse or something, then whatever you decide about yourself about that really sticks. So your conclusion about life might be that men aren't safe, or I should never go alone anywhere, or don't trust men with beards, for instance. Sorry, men with beards, but you know what I mean. If you get a particular energy in your body that gets stored, that stays, and then of course, because you've got it, it keeps getting triggered and reaffirmed, right? So if you can see where it comes from to start with, you can really do some good healing, and the younger the stronger. So anybody who's got a lot of planets in the first house or second house, had a lot happen in their early life. So that's interesting to find out.
That's an interesting idea what you're saying there, because then this clock, although it's ticking at the same rate for everybody, it's actually, as it comes across the planets that are different for me, that are different for you, that's where you're getting a different expression as well.
Yeah, so you might have Venus in Taurus, and you hit that at age 50. What age? You hit all of them by opposition or conjunction between 0 and 36, right? So, but you might have Venus in Taurus, and you hit that when you're 25, and I might have Venus in Scorpio, and I hit that when I'm 2. So that will be a very different expression, of Venus, and at 2, you're going to make a different kind of conclusion about life than you would at like 20 or something, So the earlier it is, the stronger it is, because when you're really young, you think everything is your fault until you're about, until you can disassociate from, once you get to 6 or something, you start realizing that there's other people. You get in the Taurus phase, then until you start reaching some of that, you think everything is because you're the center of the universe until you're about 6. Or about 3 or 4 is where you get that critical turning point. So where you start realizing you're not the center of the universe, so the psychological development phases are really interesting. But when you hit a planet, and if you can go back to what happened to you when you were 3 and get the story and the anecdote of that, it's amazing. It's because people really understand where the pattern comes from. So it's really quite powerful.
It's a very interesting the type of astrology you're working with, because it's showing a different way to interpret the chart. We've got past Jupiter and Taurus and Jupiter in the second house, and you're actually you're overlaying this on it to get a deeper understanding, right?
Well, I'm a therapeutic astrologer. I like to try and get people to see where things have come from, because my view is if you don't understand where they come from, you can't just change them. It makes such a difference if you think, oh my God, and it can be something really simple. Like one of my clients a long time ago had a fear of flying, so we had went back on that and had a look at that, and it turns out, I said, what happened when you were, I don't know, I can't remember how old, but it was actually what happened was it was her father was driving, and they had an accident, and he was fiddling with the radio at the time, and so he wasn't paying attention. So her conclusion about that, which also went to flying, was that I have to keep watch of whoever's driving, right? So and she had that all her life, and she hadn't realised that, because she wasn't hurt. Nobody's hurt. Nobody said anything about it. She was quite frightened, but her conclusion was, I have to watch who's driving, because it's not safe, because he was doing something. I have to keep an eye on him, so he's watching the road. So as soon as she realised that, her fear of flying went. So because she.
And this is interesting. It's very interesting that because we all have these stories we tell ourselves that come from somewhere, right?
Yeah, and they get reaffirmed and reaffirmed. So when we believe something, then we attract it as well. Right, so we're getting more therapeutic now than vocational, but of course sometimes it goes into that, because you keep getting the same old boss. You keep getting a boss that hates you, or that's too authoritative, or he doesn't listen to you, or you get the same patterns over and over again. So you have,
Yes.
and eventually you work out it's either from a school teacher at school, or it's a brother, or it's a sister, or it's a whatever. So, and that's so clarifying for people, and it does affect your work as well, because how you are with your brothers and sisters with Mercury also affects your peer group. Your peer group at work. So you tend to expect, if you've had a really bossy sister, you expect women at work to be really bossy, because that's been your experience. So that is that. Yeah. And that's really interesting as well.
Wow. So are you offering different types of consultations for people?
Yeah, I mean, I do a lot of different. I always do. I try and get people to give me all their questions before they come. So because sometimes you've got to prepare different things as well. Like I've got quite a lot of expat clients, so they quite often want to look at other locations as well. So they say, oh, I've got a job offer in Portugal and one in India. Which one should I take? So you need to have astrocartography things prepared really when they come as well. So, but I think every astrologer's had the thing where the real question comes. You're doing an hour and a half consultation, and at 20 past the hour, somebody says, yeah, and I want to ask about my relationship. My partner's just died or something. You think, oh God, why didn't I know that at the beginning? You spend a lot of time talking about other stuff where actually that's the real question. So I do try and get the real question at the beginning: why are they coming, and why now, and why me? What do you expect? What it's this kind of expectation management I try and do, so I know why people are coming. So people, and I don't know. People go, oh well, I just found it really interesting, and I was just curious. And I think, no, I'm not doing that. That's because I don't know where to focus. I don't know. I can't. If you just test it, go do it somewhere else. I can't be bothered with that. But also not because of that. I don't care about that. But I think it's not useful. I can be a lot more useful if I know why you're really coming. Yeah.
If you can bring some focus to it, yes. They call that the doorknob question. When they've got the hand on the doorknob, they're going out. By the way, will I find love this year? Yes. And you think, well, you could have led with that. Yeah.
My husband's just having an affair. Yeah. That kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is it's the skill of the astrologer then, as you say in your case, where you're actually exploring before you even start doing the astrology work to make sure that you're going down the right road with what the expectations are.
Yeah, right? I want to be efficient, but I also want to make a difference. So if you're just doing a whole load of stuff they already know, and they go, yeah, that's right, and yeah, that's right, they already know that. I mean, I'm not adding anything to the picture, I mean, it's not. There's a lot of astrology is quite good to have confirmed what you think. That's a different thing. That's all right. Especially people, especially for vocational work. People often say, oh, I'm so glad you said that. I had a feeling I'd be quite good at that. And they don't dare to try it, so it's confirmation in that way too is quite helpful, I think. Yeah.
That's wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah, but as to your question, I do a lot of different, because I used to do sort of past life regression work. I still do occasionally if people want it, but I always use the chart as a basis. So, and I do therapy work, but charts, I usually want to see people a couple of times before I do that. I don't do as much of that as I used to, but I will if people ask me. But I'll do astrolocality or vocational or children or I don't know, parents or couples counselling. I do as well. I've trained in couples counselling, that sort of thing. So lots of different things.
Oh, that's amazing. So could you then just give us your, how could our listeners contact you? What would be the best way?
They can look at my website, which has got all my different websites. I've got several websites, but if you go to fayeblake.nl, so just my name, fayeblake.nl, then from there you can find my other services and other pages. But just my faye@fayeblake.nl is my email, but you can send an email through my website as well. That all works properly.
Yes. I'll put the links to these links in the show notes up for the podcast as well. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So that's my main sort of CV website, that one, and the other one, and I've got a free blog on there, so you can sign up to that, or you can search on it. I've been doing it every month since 2006, pretty much. So there's a lot of material on there, and you can search on a planet or on a subject or whatever. And then my other one that astrologers will be interested in maybe is my astrology website, which is the Amsterdam School of Astrology. So it's asastrology.nl, and that's got some free, it's got free articles and some interviews and some links to where you can order webinars and things like that, and some other bits and pieces, and the coming things that I'm doing. So like the thing I'm doing in Canada. There's a whole itinerary on that website.
Yeah. So tell us, you're coming to visit Canada. We're very excited, and you're going you're doing a bit of a tour. Could you tell us a little bit about it?
Yes, I can't wait. I'm going first to Edmonton, and I'm doing a Friday night webinar and live there, and then a live and it's a hybrid, so it's being recorded as being sent out on the web as well on Saturday. So, and then I'm doing the same thing in Vancouver. I'm doing 2 workshopy things on the Saturday, and the Friday night I'm doing a webinar as well on series. The webinar, both of those webinars are about series. The other 2 are vocational and Hoover. And then I'm doing another series type Dangerous Woman one in Winnipeg in the middle of the week. That's also live. And then I'm doing my last gig is Toronto before I come home, and I'm doing just two live workshops there. But I think they're hybrid as well. I think you can watch them online as well.
Fantastic. So I'm actually looking forward to meeting you when you do come to Vancouver. It'll be super nice to meet you in person and attend your presentations.
Yeah, more the merrier.
Is it your first visit to Canada then?
It is. I can't wait. I've always wanted to go to Canada, so this is a good way to do it because it's I can earn a slight bit of money and go to pay back some of the costs of it. And I'm also doing special price for Canadian residents for a reading. So I'm doing not very many because I haven't got that much time, personal readings there. But you can also cross my palm with silver. So pay me there, and then I'll do for a better rate, and then I'll do them when I come home online. So you can if you like the look of me when you see me and you want a session, you can book with me while I'm there and pay me, because it saves all the exchange rates and all the rest of it. Plus, I might have some money to spend in Canada. That would be nice. And then I can do them when I come home. As soon as I'm home, I've got time to do some sessions as well.
So that sounds like a great plan. So whilst you're here touring Canada for the few weeks you're here, you can, as people are meeting with you, you can make the deal with it. Do the deal, and then you will, when you get back home, you will actually be working on their charts and presenting them, because clearly you're going to be busy doing all the traveling.
When I did a tour down the west coast of America, and I thought you just can't do all the charts that everybody wants, so that was what I did there, and it worked really well. People just were happy to book and do it online because they've already seen you. So I mean, I hope to have some books with me as well that I can sign. So I've sent a whole load of books to Edmonton. So it depends how many I can carry to get to Vancouver. I'm going on the train, so that should be all right.
All right.
If there's any left, there should be some left. So I'll have some in Vancouver, and then I've ordered some from Toronto as well, so I can do book signing or whatever there.
Oh, that's great. That's great, because it's lovely to be able to meet, as we call, international astrologers when they come to town to see you in person, get to know who you are, and you've got your books. I think that's wonderful. And because you're such an experienced and, dare I say, in-depth astrologer, that you've gone down a lot of you've done a lot of exploration work. You've done a lot of research for all these books. What you have, I've got the one here, and I've had it for a while. I mean, and it's solid. I really appreciate what you've put into astrology as a whole.
I'm really trying to be practical. So the vocational one was trying to be really practical, and give you something that you can actually take away and use for a problem that you have about getting a job or helping people with interviews or whatever, and branding and all that stuff. So, I do that. I do quite a lot of business astrology as well. So all kinds of management consultancy and branding and stuff for businesses. So that's a whole different thing. But most of what I do now is probably writing and teaching. But I still see quite a lot of clients because I've got, with the web, they're all over the place. So, yeah.
Amazing. And I do agree that your book is very practical. Does this shine through your chart in some way, this practicality, do you think?
No, just Moon and Taurus on the MC.
On the MC.
Yeah, the other thing I love about that is I've got a garden on my roof that grows vegetables. I've just eaten my dinner, and I've just had all my salad, fresh salad for my roof. So I love that with Moon and Taurus on the MC. It's very literal.
That is amazing. Because, of course, I suppose any planets that are connecting with the midheaven are going to be part of what you're looking into with the vocational work, right?
Yeah, I disagree with a lot of astrologers who use I like disagreeing. So,
Okay.
I don't really agree with the astrologers that just use the 10th, 6th, and 2nd for vocational work. For me, the vocation is absolutely the sun, where your heart is and what you really love to do, and I think this, and a lot of people use the moon. I don't for that, not for the vocation. I use it for where you feel comfortable at work. But the sun to me is your whole heart, and I think the sun is where you're supposed to shine, and what the world wants you to give, that wants you to shine forth. And the moon is you keep for yourself. It's what you need for you to feel nurtured. But the MC is your reputation and your mission in life. It's where you're heading. So the MC and the sun and the ascendant, which is, of course, your front door, I always say, or your image, those three things are the things I use for branding, not the moon. I use the combination of those three archetypes. I think when we were talking earlier, you said you had Leo, and Aries. So
Yes.
the combination of so obviously your branding should be quite warm and about me, this kind of thing. So but warm colours and yellows and reds and
Yellows. Yeah.
I can see you've got that and you're looking at you online. But so the brand that it's in an essence. I often do this in classes where you take those three. Works better with a glass of wine, because if you know your archetypes, you can just mix and match. Doesn't matter which is which, you just mix and match. So you're taking Leo words and Aries words, and if you've got something right on the ascendant or the MC, I'd probably add those. So and then mix and match, and then you've got a sort of slogan for yourself. So, and it's amazing how that sums up who you are. So that's a really good start for starting your business and and what you want to put out in the world. So it's not that the houses aren't important, but they're not the houses are the where you put the energy. They're not the what. The aspects and the planets for me are the what.
Yeah, that is a very different way of looking at from what you learn as a junior astrologer of how to do your careers. You've done that. That's it. But it's very interesting the way that you're working that you're bringing all these three elements together, and I really look forward to hearing the full presentation with you when you get here in October.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, no, I think a lot of astrologers are trying to do too much work and trying to say what you should be doing as a career. I don't. I think the client knows much more than you do about what they've done, what they like, what they So for me, it's absolutely a co-creation. The client has to take some responsibility. If they want a new job, they have to get off their backside and do something. It's no use saying, "I'm come to an astrologer," and sitting back and saying, "What do you think I'd be good at?" That's no engagement in the process of looking for a job. So people do know what they want. They want to be heard sometimes about that. So about like I said before, they're just getting some confirmation of. They hesitantly say, "Oh, I'm thinking, want to be a funeral director." You go, "Yes, do that." Yeah.
I do like that approach, and it's I'm sure it's going to be very enlightening to hear what you have to say, and I'm so looking forward to it. And if our listeners are listening after this event has gone, which is in October 2024, certainly there's going to be recordings somewhere on Faye's website that you can pick it up from, and I'll leave the links below as well as they come forward. Yes,
okay. And I've been thinking I should do some more international kind of webinar type things as well. I mean, I do them for groups. Usually I get asked, but I was thinking I should probably do a few more that I start, so that I because I've got probably quite a wide international audience now building up. So especially once I've been to Canada, I'll have some more people that might want some. Yeah, so it's good to do that. Yeah. So it's about doing all the admin and stuff for that. But if there's not too many people, and I don't want like 100 people or something, I don't really like that. But because I like to use people as examples, so that's why I love doing live stuff because of that. Because I think you learn a lot more by people speaking their charts. That's what I used to like about doing groups. But most of those are online now. I used to teach small groups for beginners. I used to love doing that because they were like, wow, beginners are really enthusiastic. Yeah. But it's hard to
Oh,
get
that,
people together to do that now. They all want to go online and not travel into the middle of Amsterdam and whatever. So there's some. I've got tons of material now that I've done so many, conferences and been around the block a bit. So I've got tons of things I could just do.
fantastic.
Yeah. So maybe we could do one later on series as well. That's my other
Absolutely.
passion. Yeah.
Oh, this is your passion. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I got hooked a bit on her in 2006 when she was upgraded, because I was doing masters at the time. At Bath, I was doing the astrology and astronomy masters, and I was one of the first graduates of that. So we got away with they were trying it out, so we got away with a bit more leeway with the academic world when I did that. But I was writing a paper at the time about when Uranus was discovered and what changed in the consciousness of the world. So when Ceres was upgraded, I thought that must be making a difference to something. So since 2006, I've been researching her. So because she's a dwarf planet and on the same level as Pluto, so one of the talks, the first talk I'm doing in Edmonton is about Ceres being an antidote for Pluto, for power. Because she stands up and says, "No, I'm not having it. You're not having any food unless I get my daughter back." So.
That sounds great. It sounds great. Yes, maybe we'll have a chat about that sometime in the future.
Yeah,
as well.
So that's my other passion. So I think the reason I've got to talk about her is I've got Mercury next to Ceres, so I'm a bit of a Ceres lobbyist.
Oh, you're a spokesperson. Then.
I'm a spokesperson. I've got to talk about her, tell everybody how wonderful she is.
Amazing.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, well, Faye, well, thank you so much for joining me today on the podcast, and thank you for sharing your time and energy today. We did have a couple of technical issues earlier on, but we're
good to go now, hopefully. So.
I think so. I do appreciate you spending the time to come and sharing information with our listeners. I'll make sure to have the all those links below. And I look forward to then seeing you when you come to visit Vancouver.
Great. Me too. And thanks very much for having me on your podcast. It's been delightful.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Okay. Bye-bye.
So, listeners, there you have it. This is FAYE Blake. She's going to be coming to Canada during October 2024. And if you're listening to this podcast after that date, do go to FAYE's website and pick up the links because there will be recordings about all of the events that she presented at and spoke at while she was here. So you are welcome to email us at starzology@gmail.com, and you can visit our website at starzology.com. Make sure that you're getting our newsletter, which comes out every Sunday. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next time. Thanks so much for getting this far through the episode. I just want to take a moment to tell you about the two main options of my astrology services. So the first one is coaching. If you are an aspiring astrologer, and by that I mean someone who's perhaps a hobbyist astrologer or someone who's learning astrology or a student, or you've got a few books and you've been doing it for a while, but perhaps you need a little bit of help to bring it all together, then maybe getting some astrological coaching from me would be the answer for you. The astrology coaching I offer is a 1-hour session on Zoom, and it's tailored to answer your particular questions. For example, if you have issues with natal chart readings, we can go there. Or if you're having problems working with your forecasting, we can go there. Or even basic astrology stuff, or even getting yourself organized for your astrology business. The idea is that astrological coaching will answer your particular questions. It's tailored specifically to you and where you are in your astrological journey. And I'm happy to help you out with some guidance about how you can get going, what to focus on, and what to dismiss. So that would be the astrological coaching for people trying to learn astrology. The second astrological service I offer is consultations. So this is for someone who perhaps doesn't know anything about astrology, but they just want to have their chart read or get their chart done. Call it what you will. So once more, this is a 1-hour consultation over Zoom. I will interpret your chart, tell you about the main features, tell you about where the energy is flowing, and all the rest of what is entailed in a thorough natal chart interpretation. I can also add in some forecasting in there too, bearing in mind we only have 1 hour. So just in summary, I've got coaching for people who want to learn astrology, and I've got consultations for those who want to get an astrology reading done. I'm Alison Price from Starzology.com. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next time.